My wife was a good wife. She was a good mom. She was an entrepreneur.
A masked intruder, a single gunshot, a life stolen. June 29th, 2017, Palm Beach County, Florida. In the dead of night, a gunman entered the Jenkins family home. Within minutes, he was gone. But he had taken exactly what he came for, the life of 33-year-old Makiva Jenkins, a loving wife, a mother, a woman who built herself from nothing. Her husband, Yuri Jenkins, wept for the cameras, but behind closed doors, police began to wonder, was this really a home invasion, or something far more calculated? Because after months of investigation, they uncovered a chilling truth. She tricked him, even in death. Welcome to True Crime. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. To understand the weight of what happened on the night of June 29th, 2017, we have to go back. Back to the story of a woman who refused to let life's hardships define her. A woman who built herself from the ground up, only to have it all taken away. This is the story of Makiva Jenkins, a mother, a wife, an entrepreneur, and a woman who unknowingly became the target of a sinister plot. Makiva Jenkins was born and raised in Belglade, Florida, a rural town in Palm Beach County known for its agricultural fields and tight-knit community. Life wasn't always easy for her. Raised primarily by her grandmother, she learned the value of perseverance and hard work early on. Unlike many who found themselves trapped in cycles of poverty, Makiva had dreams of something greater. In high school, she stood out. She was intelligent, driven, and popular among her peers. Her determination to succeed wasn't just a personal goal, it was a necessity. She was elected homecoming queen, a testament to her leadership and charisma. But beneath the smiles and school accolades, she was already setting the foundation for a future that extended far beyond the town she grew up in. After graduating, she pursued criminology at the University of South Florida. Education, she believed, was her ticket to something more. But then, life threw her a curveball. She became pregnant while still in college. Many might have let that moment derail them, but Makiva refused to give up. She balanced school and motherhood, working tirelessly to ensure that her daughter, Senya, had a stable future. With an unwavering commitment to her goals, she didn't just finish her undergraduate degree. She pushed even further, earning a master's degree in social work from Barry University in 2009. For Makiva, education was more than just a stepping stone. It was her proof that she could beat the odds. She had done it. She had defied expectations. But while she had succeeded academically, she still longed for something else: love, stability, and a family to share her journey with. It was New Year's Eve 2009 when Makiva met the man she believed was her soulmate. She had attended a church event, ready to celebrate the arrival of a new year, completely unaware that she was about to meet the man who would change her life forever. Yuri Jenkins was charming, charismatic, and came from a religious background. The son of a pastor, he carried himself with a quiet confidence, and to Makiva he seemed different from other men she had met. He had a way with words, an ability to make people feel seen and understood. Her family, however, was skeptical. Something about Yuri felt off to them. He was smooth, maybe too smooth. But Makiva wasn't easily swayed by outside opinions. She was independent, strong-willed, and convinced that Yuri was the person she had been waiting for. Within months, their relationship moved quickly. Makiva became pregnant with their first child, and by the following year, they were married. She believed she had found the stability she had always wanted: a husband, a growing family, and a chance to build something meaningful. For a while, life seemed good. But in hindsight, there were early warning signs, signs that At the time, she chose to overlook. As the years passed, Makiva's drive only intensified. She wasn't content with just getting by. She wanted financial independence and the ability to provide for her children without struggling. 2013 and 2014 were their hardest years. The Jenkins family faced homelessness, a painful reality that forced them to reevaluate everything. For Makiva, giving up was never an option. She turned adversity into fuel. By 2015, she took a leap of faith. She launched multiple business ventures, some of which failed, but she never let those failures stop her. She founded the Prime Enterprise Group, a consulting business designed to help aspiring entrepreneurs launch and scale their businesses. She shared her knowledge through mentorship programs, webinars, and live social media broadcasts, inspiring others to pursue financial freedom. By 2015, her hard work paid off. She had hit six-figure earnings, a monumental achievement for someone who had once faced homelessness. She documented her journey on social media, posting about her struggles, triumphs, and lessons learned. But while her business thrived, her marriage was starting to unravel. Yuri had ambitions of his own. He opened a barbershop, but unlike Makiva, he struggled to turn it into a financial success. The imbalance in their earnings became a source of tension. Makiva was rapidly ascending, while Yuri felt stuck. Then came the ultimate betrayal. Yuri had an affair, and it wasn't just a brief indiscretion. He got another woman pregnant. The discovery shattered Makiva. She had believed in their love, had fought for their marriage, and now she had to face the reality that the man she had devoted herself to had betrayed her in the most personal way possible. She separated from him, trying to process the hurt. But despite everything, she wasn't ready to give up on their family. She took him back. It was a decision that would later haunt her. By 2017, Makiva was at the height of her success. She was making multi-six-figure earnings, had a growing online presence, and had become a recognized figure in the entrepreneurial space. But even as she celebrated her wins, there were shadows lurking beneath the surface. Then came the Facebook post that changed everything. On June 27, 2017, just 2 days before her murder, Makiva made a post reflecting on her journey. "I am in awe of how far I've come. Fast forward to now. We overcame being homeless in 2013 and 2014 to reaching my six-figure mark in 2015 to now making multi-six figures." She never imagined that her words would mark her for death. She had no idea that those words would be among her last. No idea that someone was watching. No idea that just 48 hours later she would be lying in a pool of blood. No idea that the man she trusted the most, the man she built a life with, was planning her murder. Success is supposed to bring security. For Makiva Jenkins, it did the opposite. She thought she was building a life of wealth and happiness. She didn't know she was building a target on her back. 2 days after that post, what happened next would reveal a web of lies, deception, and betrayal. Her openness online had drawn admiration from thousands, but it had also painted a target on her back. Some believed that the Facebook post attracted the wrong kind of attention. Others suspected that the threat had been inside her home all along. What no one knew at the time was that behind the scenes, Makiva and Yuri were having serious discussions about divorce. She had finally had enough. The affair had shattered her trust, and though she had taken him back, the emotional wounds were still raw. She wanted out. And there was another factor, her life insurance policy. Unbeknownst to Yuri, Makiva had a $500,000 life insurance policy. Initially, he had been listed as the beneficiary, but before her death, she made a critical change. She removed his name. The money would no longer go to him. It would go to her grandmother. Yuri didn't know this. To him, Makeva's success and wealth were just within his grasp. She was pregnant again, carrying their fourth child. She had no idea that her days were numbered, because while she was planning for the future, someone else was planning for something else entirely. And on June 29th, 2017, that plan was put into motion. The night had been ordinary, a humid Florida summer evening in Palm Beach County. Inside the Jenkins home, things were calm. Makeva, 8 weeks pregnant, was asleep in the master bedroom upstairs. Downstairs, in the garage-turned-barbershop, Yuri Jenkins, Makeva's brother, Key Greer, and their friend Dimitri Dale were talking. Yuri had been giving Key a haircut, a casual moment between friends and family. Then came the sound, a slight shuffle, the creak of a door. A masked man stepped into the garage. He was dressed in black, his face wrapped in fabric, leaving only his eyes visible. In his hand, a loaded revolver. For a moment, everything stood still. Then, his voice cut through the silence. "Where's the money?" The demand was clear. This was no random break-in. He moved with confidence, as if he already knew the layout of the house. Key and Dimitri froze, trying to process what was happening. "Yuri?" He barely reacted. The suspicious gunman behavior. The gunman didn't panic. He wasn't frantic. He didn't even take anything. There were valuables within reach, laptops, phones, expensive barbering equipment. He ignored them all. Instead, he ordered the 3 men inside the house. But then, something unusual happened. Dimitri, holding one of the Jenkins children, asked if he could take the child outside. And the gunman agreed. Why would an intruder allow a witness to leave? Now it was just Yuri, Key, and the masked man. The gunman turned to Yuri. "Take me upstairs." No hesitation. Yuri obeyed. Key watched as his brother-in-law and the masked intruder ascended the stairs. Then came the moment that would haunt him forever. A single gunshot. The masked man walked back down, untouched, unbothered, and exited through the front door. The sound of an engine revving. The white Dodge Charger sped away into the night. 911 call and police arrival. The silence shattered as Key rushed up the stairs. There, in the master bedroom, Makeva lay motionless on the bed, a gunshot wound to the head. Yuri was beside her, holding her head, sobbing. But something was off. His grief, it was too much, too exaggerated. He kept repeating her name, rocking back and forth. Key, frantic, shaking, dialed 911. "My sister's fighting for her life, man." The operator tried to keep him calm, but his voice cracked with panic. Minutes later, sirens filled the air. Palm Beach County deputies arrived first, guns drawn, expecting an active crime scene. But the gunman was gone. All that remained was a pregnant woman bleeding out in her own home. Paramedics rushed to stabilize Makeva, but it was too late. By the time she reached the hospital, she was gone. Her unborn child, gone. A mother of 3, a wife, a businesswoman, a fighter, gone. And yet, the investigation was only just beginning. Because soon, detectives would discover this wasn't just a robbery. This was something much worse. When Palm Beach County detectives arrived at the Jenkins home in the early morning hours of June 29th, 2017, the crime scene was perplexing. A single gunshot wound to the head, nothing stolen, and a masked intruder who seemed to know exactly where to go. From the start, something felt off. As investigators spoke with the witnesses, a strange detail emerged. The gunman had asked for someone named Quest before shooting Makeva. Quest wasn't just any name, it was Makeva's mother. Did the gunman get the wrong person? Detectives initially explored the theory that this may have been a mistaken identity case, that the intruder had come looking for Quest but ended up killing McKeever instead. Quay Greer, McKeever's brother, was convinced this was a hit meant for their mother. Quest, whose real name was Jacqueline Godwin, had a checkered past, one that, at times, involved connections to shady individuals and financial disputes. Key revealed to detectives that Quest had once passed counterfeit money to a drug dealer, an act that could have put her life in danger. Could this have been retaliation? Could the masked gunman have thought that Quest was sleeping in the bedroom that night instead of McKeever? For a brief moment it seemed plausible. But then detectives took a step back. Nothing had been stolen. No valuables were taken. The gunman wasn't in a rush. This wasn't a robbery. And the biggest red flag? McKeever's husband, Yuri. He wasn't acting like a man who had just lost his wife. His grief, it seemed more performative than genuine. There was also the question of the intruder's behavior. Why did he let Dimitri Dale leave with a child? Why did he specifically demand Yuri lead him upstairs? Why did he only fire one shot and leave immediately after? Something wasn't right. Detectives began looking deeper, and soon they found their first major break, one that had nothing to do with Quest at all. While investigators processed the crime scene, officers patrolling nearby made a crucial discovery. Less than a mile away from the Jenkins home, they found an abandoned white Dodge Charger. The engine was cold. It had been sitting there for hours. Inside, officers found a black T-shirt, possibly used as the gunman's disguise. The keys still in the ignition, as if the car had been abandoned in a hurry. A crumpled receipt from a Miami Subs restaurant. That receipt would change everything. Tracing the Miami Subs receipt, detectives immediately pulled surveillance footage from the restaurant. The timestamp on the receipt read June 28th, 2017, 10:43 p.m., just a few hours before the murder. The footage showed two men at the counter ordering food. One of them was Dimitri Dale, the man who had been with Yuri in the garage when the gunman entered. The other? A young man investigators had never seen before. His name was Jovan Joseph. Dale and Joseph sat in a booth eating. They weren't in a rush. They didn't seem nervous. Then, at 11:15 p.m., they left. Jovan got into a vehicle of his own, a dark-colored sedan. Dale got into the white Dodge Charger. Investigators pieced together the timeline. Dale and Joseph were together just hours before the murder. Joseph's car was seen trailing the Dodge Charger as it approached the Jenkins home. The Charger was used as the getaway car. This wasn't just a random break-in. Dale and Joseph were involved, and detectives were now one step closer to uncovering the truth. With surveillance footage placing Dimitri Dale and Jovan Joseph together just hours before the murder and the abandoned white Dodge Charger tying them directly to the crime, investigators knew they were closing in. But they still needed a confession. Dale was the weakest link. He wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. He wasn't the mastermind. He was just the middleman, and detectives were betting that, under enough pressure, he would talk. They brought him in for questioning. At first, he stuck to his story, insisting he had no idea who the masked man was, that he had been just as shocked as everyone else when McKeever was killed. But detectives kept pressing. They laid out the evidence at the Miami Subs receipt, the surveillance footage of him with Joseph, the Charger following Joseph's car to the Jenkins home. Dale's story began to crack. Finally, after hours of interrogation, he gave in. The murder-for-hire plot. Dale admitted the truth. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was a hit. And the person who ordered it? Yuri Jenkins. Dale revealed that Yuri had promised Jovan Joseph $10,000 to kill McKeever. But there was a problem. Joseph hadn't been fully paid. He had received $1,500 up front, with the remaining $8,500 to come after the job was done. But after McKeever was killed, Joseph never got the rest of his money. The text messages that exposed everything. Investigators obtained text messages exchanged between Joseph and Dale in the days after the murder. The messages revealed Joseph's frustration. He was asking for his money, but Dale kept stalling. One message from Joseph read, "Bro, where's my money? You said after the job was done." Dale responded, "He said he's working on it. Chill." Another message, "I ain't do that for free. I need my money, man. For real." The biggest red flag? If this had been a random robbery, why was Joseph texting about a job? Detectives now had proof. This was a premeditated murder for hire. But they still needed to understand why Yuri had done this. And that's when they uncovered his real motive. From the outside, it seemed like Yuri had everything: a successful wife, a growing family, a beautiful home. But behind the scenes, he was drowning in financial problems. The debt and child support. He couldn't escape. Years earlier, Yuri had an affair, and that affair led to a child. The mother of his child had taken him to court for child support. By 2017, he was behind on payments and was facing legal consequences if he didn't catch up. At the same time, his own barbershop business was failing. While McKeever was earning six figures, Yuri was barely scraping by. He saw her success, but instead of celebrating it, he resented it. Then, he saw an opportunity. McKeever had a $500,000 life insurance policy. If she died, he assumed he would be the one to receive the payout. That money would clear his debts, pay off his child support, give him a fresh start. The fatal mistake that ruined his plan. What Yuri didn't know was that McKeever had recently changed the beneficiary. The $500,000 was no longer going to him. Instead, she had secretly named her grandmother as the sole beneficiary. So when McKeever died, Yuri got nothing. This would become the ultimate irony of the case. He had his wife murdered for money, and he didn't receive a single cent. Detectives now had the motive, but they needed one final piece of evidence to tie it all together. And that's when they set a trap. With Dimitri Dale cooperating, investigators saw an opportunity. They asked Dale to meet with Yuri and record their conversation. Dale agreed. Dale met up with Yuri days after his confession, pretending to be nervous about the investigation. The hidden recording device captured every word. "Bro, they've been asking me questions. I don't know what to say." "Just keep your mouth shut. They don't have proof." "But what if they do?" "They can't pin this on me, right?" It was a chilling moment. Yuri never denied the murder. He never showed remorse. His only concern was whether or not the police could prove his involvement. The moment investigators heard that recording, they knew. They had everything they needed, and within days, Yuri Jenkins was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. In May 2022, nearly 5 years after the tragic death of Markova Jenkins, the trial of Yuri Jenkins commenced in Palm Beach County, Florida. Yuri faced charges of first-degree murder, accused of orchestrating a plot to have his pregnant wife killed to claim her life insurance proceeds. Key witnesses: Dimitri Dale turns. State's witness. Initially implicated as a middleman in the murder-for-hire scheme, Dale agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. He testified that Yuri Jenkins had solicited his assistance in finding someone to kill McKeever, offering payment for the act. Jovan Joseph testifies. The confessed gunman Joseph took the stand, stating that Yuri personally ordered the hit on his wife. He detailed meetings where Yuri discussed the murder plan and the financial arrangements promised in exchange for carrying out the crime. Yuri Jenkins's defense team sought to undermine the credibility of the prosecution's key witnesses. Discrediting witnesses. The defense highlighted inconsistencies in the testimonies of Joseph and Dale, emphasizing their admitted history of lying under oath. They argued that both men had motives to fabricate stories in exchange for reduced sentences. Alternative narratives. By suggesting that Joseph and Dale were the actual perpetrators acting independently, the defense aimed to cast doubt on Yuri's involvement, portraying him as a grieving husband wrongfully accused. Prosecutors built their case around a clear motive and corroborating evidence. Financial gain. They presented evidence that Yuri stood to benefit from McKeever's life insurance policy, asserting that financial strain and debt provided a strong incentive for the crime. Behavioral evidence. Testimonies from law enforcement highlighted Yuri's suspicious demeanor following the murder. Detective Sean Oliver noted, "As a seasoned investigator at that time, I just thought his behavior was a little odd, joking way too much for someone whose wife was shot." Tensions escalated during the trial when Marquavius Key Greer, McKeever's younger brother, attempted to confront Yuri Jenkins in the courtroom. Overcome with emotion, Kay's outburst underscored the profound impact of the tragedy on the family. Sheriff's deputies intervened, preventing any physical altercation. After deliberations, the jury reached a decisive conclusion. Yuri Jenkins. Found guilty of first-degree murder, Yuri was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought a measure of closure to those affected by McKeever's untimely death. Jovan Joseph. Having cooperated with authorities and testified against Yuri, Joseph received a sentence of 15 years in prison for his role as the gunman. Dimitri Dale. In exchange for his testimony, Dale was sentenced to 45 days in jail, followed by probation, acknowledging his cooperation and lesser involvement in the crime. The trial's conclusion marked the end of a harrowing chapter for McKeever Jenkins' family, offering a semblance of justice for a life taken too soon. Yuri had plotted a perfect crime, only to be undone by the very woman he tried to erase. He thought he had won. But in the end, she had the last move. She tricked him, even in death. The sentence was handed down, life without parole. For McKeever's family, there was no joy in the verdict, only the hollow reality that no amount of justice could ever bring her back. Her 3 children, now growing up without their mother, would never hear her voice again, never feel her embrace, never see her at their milestones. Her unborn child, whose life had been stolen before it could even begin, would never get a chance to exist. And then there was Key Greer, McKeever's younger brother, the one who had been there that night, the one who had heard the gunshot, the one who had rushed into the room only to find the sister he adored bleeding out before his eyes. Key's heartbreak. "I've cried so much I can't even cry anymore. I just have to be strong for her." He carries the weight of her memory, the grief pressing against him like a shadow that never fades. And then there was Yuri. A man who thought he had it all figured out. A man who believed he could erase McKeever from existence and walk away with her fortune. Instead, he lost everything. He destroyed his own life for nothing. McKeever's life was about lifting others up. She spent her years helping people build businesses, find success, and create better futures for themselves. But in the end, she lifted herself out of reach of the very man who sought to profit from her death. He wanted her money, he got nothing. He wanted his freedom, he will die in a prison cell. McKeever's story is one of triumph and tragedy. She was a mother, a wife, a fighter. And even in death, she refused to let the man who betrayed her win. What do you think? Do you believe justice was served? What would you have done in McKeever's position? If she had never changed the insurance policy, do you think Yuri would have ever been caught? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story powerful, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more true crime stories that need to be told. Thank you for watching. Stay safe.